Hi, I'm State Representative Ross Hunter. I represent the 48th Legislative District, which is Bellevue, Redmond, Kirkland, the Points communities, and a teeny little bit of Issaquah.
Lawmakers are deliberating how best to bridge a pending $4.6 billion shortfall in the 2011-13 biennial budget. State Representative Ross Hunter, who chairs the House Ways and Means Committee and will ultimately be one of the chief architects of the budget solution, describes the challenge of making deep cuts in state spending without causing damage to families that will cost us even more in the future.
So we're here today to talk about one of the efforts that we're going to take this year of trying to get the budget to make more sense, to get rid of a lot of the different silos. And I'm here today with Joel Ryan, who's head of the Association of People Who Work on Head Start, to talk about all the different places in the budget where we do child care and trying to bring them together. We have something called the TANF box, and TANF is one of our normal acronyms that talks about temporary aid to needy families, and that replaced welfare. So, Joel, in 1996, President Clinton and then Speaker of the House, Newt Gingrich, cut a deal to change welfare as we know it. And the deal was that people had 5 years instead of forever on welfare. Mm-hmm. But if we were going to assume that welfare recipients, who were almost overwhelmingly single moms, were going to go back to work, we had to make it possible. We had to make sure that they had access to affordable child care, affordable, safe child care, so they could go back to work. Mm-hmm. Are we in danger of losing that?
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things that the governor proposed in her budget was to actually cut child care assistance for every family except those families that are on welfare, and actually created a situation in our state where we used to have a welfare to work program. Under the governor's proposal, we have a work to welfare program. And so I'm happy that you've been working on this issue and trying to provide child care assistance
so let me make sure I understand this. So we today are living up to that deal that President Clinton and Speaker Gingrich cut, which was to provide child care to people who were in very low-income jobs as they're moving up the wage ladder until the point where they could cover it themselves. Yeah. And now we're cutting that part of child care. We're only giving the child care to people who are already on welfare, who don't have a job, right. And we're sending them out into the worst employment market in decades to try and get a job for which they probably don't have the skills.
Yeah.
This is crazy.
It is crazy. And one of the parents that I worked with recently, she was working at a place, but because of this cut to child care, she really was in a difficult situation and said, well, geez, I have to go on welfare in order for me to have a place to live, enough food to eat, and a safe place for my kids. And what she told me is that under the governor's budget proposal around child care assistance, they will give her child care to look for a job. And as soon as she has one, they'll cut her off only for her to start the cycle again. And what I'm worried about is not only are we trapping people in poverty, but we're costing taxpayers much more. Because at the end of the day, the taxpayer unfortunately has to pick up some of those other costs of TANF, which are much more expensive for people to be on welfare and food stamps and housing and all the things, rather than supporting people who are actually working. And that's what we should be doing in our state.
And so part of the rest of this discussion we're going to have is not just about how we do the Working Connections Child Care, which is what this program is, but how we connect that to our early learning efforts so that we know that in the education world, we want to have all of our at-risk kids have extra time in school so that they're prepared. Kids today, about 40% of the kids in the state arrive in kindergarten not prepared. They're in some cases up to 2 years behind in their verbal and their math skills to kids who sort of have a more advantaged childhood, and that this early learning opportunities we can provide really make a huge difference in outcomes. There's a huge amount of evidence on this. And right now they're in totally different departments. Yeah. And the budgets are not controlled together. And one of the efforts I have is to try and bring this together. How can we make that better?
Well, a couple things. As you said, one of the best investments we can make is to invest in early childhood education. That's high quality. Mm-hmm. All the economists agree that if you invest $1 in early childhood education, taxpayers see a savings of up to $7, $8. Less need for special education, grade repetition, more likely to graduate from high school and even college. if you want to make things better for early childhood education, you need to streamline the system. So we have a Department of Early Learning in our state. We need to take advantage of that and make sure that it's much more efficient. We have child care and early learning in various departments and agencies still. If we want it to be about what's best for the child, we need to make sure that it's in one place, it's housed in a place that's kid-centric. And what I mean by that is right now the welfare agencies run parts of child care. They're not interested in the quality of the child care, which I think is a big mistake. And in some cases, we might even be wasting money and having a negative impact on kids. And we don't want to have that. And so at the end of the day, and I think what you've been talking about here down in Olympia, is to find a way to make things more efficient and at the same time improve the quality of the program so it's more child-focused. The science has changed.
And not adult-focused.
Yeah, absolutely. Our child care system is completely adult-focused right now. And the quality is low. The reimbursement rates are low. The standards are low. And if we want to see those things fixed, it's got to be child-focused. The research has changed since the 1990s to a point we know so much more, as you mentioned, about brain science and the ability of children to learn at the earliest ages. So I'm delighted that you're taking this effort on.
So my real interest here as a budget chair is to try and get a handle on the budget and get the reorganization done so that we have all the resources focused on the same problem in one area.
Yeah.
So we can actually figure out how much money we're spending, track the money, manage the money, and not have it frittered away in administrative overhead. So we're going to be working on that. And I'm pleased that we are going to have positive outcomes for children as part of that effort.
Yep.
It's not often in this year's budget cycle that we'll be able to improve things at the same time as we can possibly save money and be more streamlined about doing it. So thank you, and I appreciate your help.
Yeah, thanks a lot.